We have here in the subconscious the paradigm, and part of the paradigm with respect to money is it's a poverty thing. Now, this paradigm impacts our thinking. There's a power flowing into our consciousness, and the thoughts we think are generally motivated by the subconscious mind. Now, something that I've been pointing out here recently on, look at this. The subconscious mind is universal intelligence. So when you have that paradigm in the subconscious mind, that controls the vibration that we're in, and the vibration we're in is going to dictate what we attract, because we're in that vibration here on a conscious level, on a subconscious level, and on a physical. So you're going to attract from anywhere you go in the universe the same type of thing. That's what we're attracting. So we're attracting people that are in harmony with this, and this paradigm causes our thinking to be along the same level. Now, we've got to realize, even in our ignorance, when we don't know and we haven't got anything, our thinking is hooked into universal intelligence. And you will attract from wherever it is in the universe, whatever is required to cause the problem. When you hear people say, you know, I just get one bill paid and another one pops up, bang, they're going to attract it. And sure as it gets dark, they get it. Now that's ingrained in our mind from the time we're children. In fact, from the moment of conception in most of us. And then we grow into it, and that's what we hear as we're growing up. Money doesn't grow on trees, and over. You can't have everything you want, you know. And that is, that's got to be eliminated, and we've got to realize that is not fact. That you do not have to work harder, that you do less, and you earn more. And you've got to get the idea that you can have money coming in from many different places in the world, dragging it right into you. You attract it. And you can magnetize yourself to money in all different quantities.
Want to be happy? Build a life, not just a business. Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know you've got more inside you. You've got Michael Jordan level genius at something. So today, let's live your best belief life and learn how you can leverage the law of attraction. Enjoy. Rule number 2, develop productive thoughts with Bruce Lipton.
Money is the equivalent of energy, so you can buy energy with your cash. And the significance about that is if you're frugal and take care of your money and keep a balance, then you always have this energy in your bank account, energy in which you can live. However, obviously, if you waste this energy, then you actually interfere with your own survival. So you don't really want to go out and just throw away your money. And so basically, I really want to show you that this is an important insight into the nature of our own health and our biology and the world we create in this regard. That our biological system, the cells, rely on energy. Without energy, there's no life. So fundamentally, you have an energy budget that gives you life. And in fact, in the body, energy is in coins called ATP, molecules that represent units of energy. So in fact, biologists refer to ATP as the coin of the realm. The significance of ATP is this, is that ATP molecules are like units of gasoline, like gallon of gas, that are used to fuel our biological processes. So to stay alive, we have to have all this ATP. So there's an ATP account in your body right now. But the question is, how do you use this ATP? And now here's an important fact, that 25% of the total energy in your whole body is used to operate your brain. So all of a sudden you start to recognize that the brain uses energy at the rate of muscles of a marathon runner. So brain and muscle activity are pretty much the same. And so why is this important? Because as you're using your brain, as you're using your thinking, you are actually using energy. Now, why is this relevant? The answer is very simply this. Because the way we've been using our thoughts are not necessarily productive. As a matter of fact, sometimes our investments of our thoughts are actually counterproductive because our thoughts create a reality that we then have to overcome. So basically it says that we must start to become aware of our thoughts. And why is this important? Because thoughts represent units of energy. Every time you have a thought, you use energy. Why this becomes relevant is, if I give you a checkbook for your bank account, you don't go down the street and just write checks to people like, oh, hey, you're a nice looking guy, here's $10 for you, and oh, here, little girl, go out and buy yourself a little car, here's $1,000 for you. And you don't give away your money. Why? Because giving away your money is giving away your life. So basically, you become very frugal when you have a checkbook in your hand. Now what I'm trying to tell you is this. You have an energy budget in your body. The energy is what keeps you alive. When you start using energy and writing checks where you get no return from your energy, then it's exactly the same as writing checks out of your bank checkbook and giving away your cash. So why this becomes important is the biology of belief reveals how our thoughts create our reality. And if you start investing in thoughts that are counterproductive, thoughts like fear, or what am I going to do, and how am I going to escape this problem, or how's this going to go wrong, and all these other kinds of thoughts that are negative kinds of thoughts, then realize this. You are actually not just using your energy for having these thoughts, but these thoughts are also what come into your reality. What you focus on with your thoughts, your brain will manifest as reality. Everything you do in your life, you put out energy for. Therefore, start to review what you're doing in your life. Because if you're putting your energy into things you cannot change in this world, that is exactly the same as writing a check and just throwing away your money to the outside because you get nothing back from it. So think about this very interesting reality, that you have this energy checkbook. And every time you use energy, you have to say, is the use of this energy going to enhance my life, or is it just wasted energy? Am I getting involved in a political argument with people where I'm going to use up all my energy and will I have changed the world? No. Am I going to use up all my energy to try to convince other people to change their life or change their way of living to make them even healthier, and they're not ready to do that? I'd be wasting my energy. So here's an interesting thought. If I gave you an energy checkbook and asked you to write a check every time you had to have a thought, you would have to then ask yourself, is this thought going to enhance my life, or is this thought going to take away from my life? And then when you start to realize that, you start to direct your actions where you put your energy into things that enhance your life and give you an opportunity to survive and to go beyond survival and really into thriving. So the point is this, we are facing some rough times. The more thoughts you put into the negative aspect, the more thoughts you put into the fear, not only are you just wasting your energy, but as in the biology belief, these negative thoughts, these negative stresses actually impair your immune system and bring on disease itself.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 3, invest in yourself with Joe Dispenza.
When I'm going through change in my life, or I have a specific outcome that I want to create, I love to get up early in the morning. That's my time. I'm a 4:30 in the morning guy because that's my time. The rest of the day I'm serving, but I love getting up early and changing and working and having some time to myself. And I believe that when I invest in myself, I invest in my future. And that time in my morning, nobody bothers me because that's my time. And because of brain waves and brain chemistry, the door between the conscious mind and the subconscious mind is more open. And so if I get up early and I'm kind of between theta and alpha, I don't have to work as hard. I'm not thinking, I just kind of relax into the moment. In the evening, I always ask myself, how did I do? How was one lifetime in one day? Where did I fall from grace? What happened? And so then when I look at seeing how I reacted to someone or something, or I made the choice that I could have made a better choice, I naturally And we all do this, begin to think, well, if the same situation happened again, how would I do it differently? And that's the act of beginning to come up with a new plan. The act of rehearsing it in your mind begins to install the circuits in your brain, priming your brain so that when the next experience happens, you could modify your behaviors to do a better job in life. That's called plasticity. So it doesn't matter for me what meditation I do any longer. I like to just get up in a new state of being. I have people say to me, hey, I missed my meditation today, like I'm supposed to go like this or something. And I say to them, eyes open or eyes closed? You know, well, eyes open or eyes closed. You know, when you're passionate about something, you know, when people can't get up in the morning and they can't get out of bed, I'm going to tell you why. Because they can predict the feeling of everything that's going to happen in their life. And their body's resigned to the familiar. It says, oh, another mundane day. But remember when you were a kid and you were going on a field trip? What happened then? You were up and dressed and ready to go before your parents were up. You know why? Because you knew something unexpected was going to happen. That's how we should live our lives. Waking up with the understanding to expect the unexpected, and something unusual should happen in our life as a result of our efforts. And it's just those beginning moments where it begins to happen that we begin to prove to ourselves how powerful we really are. So take time in the morning and the evening and the rest of the day, check in with yourself at certain times to see if you're still in that energy. And if you're not, excuse yourself for a second, raise your energy, and step back into your life. And if you keep doing that over and over again, you'll become less frustrated, less impatient, less judgmental. It'll just become something of the past, and you'll be someone else.
Rule number 4, grow an abundance mindset with Louise Hay.
So many people think that money is the most important thing in the world, and if they don't have money, they would just die. But that's not true. There's a substance that is far more precious and far more important to us that we literally can't live without. What is that? Love. No, plenty of people are miserable and lonely most of their life and live. Air. Your air, your breath. Your breath is the most important thing that you have, the most precious thing. If you didn't take another breath, you wouldn't last 3 minutes and you'd never get out of this room. And yet we absolutely take for granted that our next breath is there. Look at us, we're all in this room breathing, and I'm not saying don't breathe, there's not enough for me. We assume that it's there. And when we exhale, we don't think about where's my next breath coming from. Now, if the power that created us has given us enough breath to last for as long as we shall live, can we not begin to trust that the other things will take care of themselves? See, life is here for us. Life is here to support us, to take care of us, to be here for us. The entire planet has been put here for us to play with. We have everything that we shall ever need. It's already here. Only we have to know it, and we have to trust it, and we have to acknowledge it. Do you realize that there is more food on this planet than people could possibly eat? There's an incredible amount of food. Yes, it is true that there are people starving. But the food is here. There is more money on this planet than we know how to count. The money is here. Now, there are lots of people who are very broke, but the money is here. There are billions of people on this planet, and yet you will have people tell you that they're lonely. It has nothing to do with not being people. It's what we're doing with our heads. Everything is here for us. For every dis-ease on this planet, there is a plant that'll cure it. Everything is here for us. And the more we begin to trust life and acknowledge the beauty and magnificence of our own being, the more we find everything we need. It just pops up.
And rule number 5, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is access your inner power with Eckhart Tolle.
There is a source of power in you that transcends the person. And it's not egoic power over somebody. And it's one with the power that is the power of life in the universe, where all life arises. And people sometimes have a problem with self-confidence or valuing yourself. And sometimes you try to convince yourself by changing your thinking that you are actually good enough, that you should be self-confident. But there is a better way to find the source of self-confidence. On the egoic level, self-confidence is there because you see, you can tell yourself, I'm actually more intelligent than most of these people, or I'm better looking than most. I have to remind myself that I'm better looking than most, and then okay, yeah, I feel a bit more confident now. Or you say, I actually have more money than these people, so I have more self-confidence. Whatever it is, some way of convincing yourself, and then you compare yourself with others, and then you focus on those areas where you feel superior to others, and try not to think about other areas where inevitably you are inferior to others, because you cannot be superior in all areas. It's a complicated game when you start comparing yourself to other people. And if you want to bolster your self-confidence, and you only have to focus on where you feel I'm actually better than most. But that doesn't really work that well. So there is a better way of self-confidence that has nothing to do with comparing yourself with others, or with feeling you are better than or not as good as. And that is direct access to inner power. You don't need any comparison. You can have it right now at this very moment, if you're not stuck in your thinking mind, but take your attention a little bit beyond the thinking mind, and then realize that you are the presence behind the thinking mind, without which there could be no thinking. You're the aware presence behind it all. That is deeper. You've gone deeper than the thinking mind. And that aware presence is where power resides. And it's not yours, because it connects you with universal power. Therefore, you don't need to compare yourself to anybody anymore, or feel, as the ego always does, that you're either superior or inferior to somebody else. That's not a comfortable way to live, where you have to classify yourself when you meet people. And so you have the fears always, I might be inferior. Or behind that fear is a desire to be superior.
Creating daily success routines is the secret to getting everything that you want. Everything that you want out of life, out of business, your hopes, your dreams, your ambitions, everything that you want lie on the other side of what you are doing daily, of your daily success, habits, and routines. I think we let ourselves down by default. I think we worry about other people's opinions by default. I think we play small every day by default. I think you should have already accomplished a lot of the things that are on your list, but you're stuck in procrastination mode because you are playing small by default, because you are not consistent, because you do not have the habits on a daily basis to keep going. Consistency is the difference maker. Chart your start. What you do in the first 15 minutes of your day matters. Chart your start. Have a plan of action. Most people wake up like an accident. Most people wake up, they're tired, you pull out your phone, you start looking on your email, and what are you doing when you're looking at your email or looking at social media? You're responding to other people's emergencies. Like, you wake up, you're tired, and the first thing you do is you start responding to other people's emergencies. I want you to control the first part of your day. Chart your start. Understand what it is that makes you come alive. Understand what is the action that helps you feel bold, creative, unstoppable. We've all had it. You've all had moments where you have felt bold, courageous, and unstoppable. What led to that? Reverse engineer yourself. What led to you feeling bold? Is it watching a video? Is it reading a book? Is it having a conversation? Is it doing a meditation? Is it taking your dog out for a walk? Is it cutting the grass? Like, I don't care. There's no judgment. I don't care what the thing is that makes you feel bold and courageous and unstoppable. I just want you to do it daily. I want you to start your day with intention. Most people don't start their day with intention, and that makes a difference between the people who achieve success and the ones who don't. And so chart your start. Figure out the thing that makes you come alive, that makes you feel like that big crazy idea of yours is actually possible, and put that into the first 15 minutes of every day. If you did the thing that made you feel bold, courageous, and unstoppable in the first 15 minutes of waking up every single day, not every day will be amazing, but I guarantee you that your life will look unrecognizable from where you are right now. Chart your start.
Productivity is very simple. It's a measurement to me. I actually am productive 64 hours a day. And the reason that I'm productive 64 hours a day, I call it the power of 64, is that I focus in on having twice as many productive hours. So if most people work 8 productive hours, I work 16. I then focus in on the efficiencies of those hours to turn the 16 hours to twice as efficient to 32 hours of production. And then I look at the statistical success of what I'm doing to double that to create 64 hours of production. So when people ask me, how do you speak internationally, have your own radio show on CNBC, run a business, have a family of 4 kids, happy marriage, travel, do all of these things? Well, it's easy because I have 64 hours a day that I'm doing things. And it may sound silly, but I've actually changed my life by creating and playing with time. Let me give you some examples of what to do. I take everything that I do by the minute, hour, day, month, year, and I look at it and I create systems. It may sound a little OCD or anal retentive, but it actually works. So I took, for example, I brush my teeth, floss my teeth, and take Listerine every morning. And I took that and I started realizing that I would daze off and forget what tooth, and it took me an average of 6 minutes a day. But if I stayed focused in the morning and that small little thing that I do every day, I could save 4 minutes. 4 minutes times 7 days was 28 minutes a week, times 4 weeks in a month was 2 hours a month, times 12 months was 24 hours that I regained of productivity. All because I stay focused when I brush my teeth, floss my teeth, and take a shot of Listerine. Other things happen. I realize that time is compressed in the morning. So I'm not sure if you can, looking at me, realize it. I've spent hours of wasted time in the closet wondering what to wear. I sit there in the morning, no matter how late I am, like, or I've lost a sock, or I can't find the right belt. And so I learned this little trick that I had when I was 5 years old, is I lay out my clothes at night. But the challenge is, when I analyzed that, is I didn't want to take away from the time with my children at night. So I incorporated that in laying out my clothes. So I took my girls and I let them lay out my clothes. So they learned colors and sizes, geography, where things were bought, finance. I did all kinds of type of things. And now my 6-year-old son, because I travel a lot, he actually gets excited when I leave because he gets to lay out my clothes. And my oldest daughter, who's 17, walks by and tells me, "Oh, Daddy, I miss laying out your clothes with you." See how this universal energy has created itself into efficient, effective, statistically successful things in my life that have nothing to do with business. It's a matter of putting energy in creating the habits in performance.
Is there any daily disciplines that you have in your life, daily routines, that you would attribute to your success?
I try to beat the sun up. I write my goals down every day, and I try to hit the gym. So I don't do it perfect every day.
Sure.
Some things throw me off, and unfortunately, I created a lifestyle where some things are taken care of for me that most people don't have that option. Somebody drives the kids to school. I don't have to do that. That would change everything. if I had to do that. Who knows? Maybe I need to. Maybe I need to start driving the kids to school. It seems like a complete waste of time to me. But I live two minutes from my office. So when I bounce out of here, I got to go do a live stream on real estate. But yeah, that's the first three things. If I can get that done in the morning, man, I know I'm going to have a good day.
Yeah, pretty simple. Beat the sun up. Make sure you write down your goals.
Yeah.
Make sure you take care of yourself, get the blood flowing, get the heart pumping.
Yeah, and I write my goals down fresh, a new unit at a time. Like I write them down today, like I had never written them down before.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's so simple on the outside, but so many people won't do those three.
I dare everybody listening here to try to do it for 30 days in a row. See if you can even make 7.
Most of you lose control of your life in the first 5 minutes after you wake up. I talk about it in my book, and you begin to respond all day long. The first thing is this: the hardest thing you will do, and the thing that will change your life almost with the greatest impact, is to not check your phone for the first 30 minutes you wake up in the morning. I'm telling you that
might be the biggest game changer.
It is the biggest game changer for me. It was so difficult so what I did is I moved it away from where I sleep. But I'm just going to say to you all, you think that's not a big deal, I got to check it. I'm telling you, if you could go 30 minutes, if you could start by going 10 minutes to begin your day, something where you do not check that and react. And then what you say about the gratitude thing, that's profound for me, and it's a breakthrough for me when you said it. I'm always kind of like, what are the big things I'm grateful for? God, I'm grateful for my kids. You reduce it down to just something. What's the smallest thing you could be grateful for, right? I love that, because there's always a small thing you could be grateful for. I'm grateful I clipped my toenails yesterday, whatever it is, right? There's something. So I just want to validate how powerful I think both those simple tools, the simplest things, make the biggest impacts in our lives.
What's your morning routine?
Every morning, without fail, the first thing I do is I run. Without fail. I haven't missed a day of running since 2016.
Okay.
So I get up, I do that. 4 days out of the week, I go to the gym, and every single night for 5.5 years, I stretch out for at least 2 hours.
That was a killer part of the book.
Every night. That's where so when you go so hard, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, you have to have time set aside to quiet and recover. Recovery's big. The mind, especially the mind and the body.
Yep.
This is my time. There's no phone calls. There's no emails. The world does not exist.
Yep.
Because I have to get ready for tomorrow.
Yep.
Get the body opened up. Why? Because as I won't get too
you
deep
went
into it.
You went deep into the book. It was awesome.
But your body's getting tight.
Yeah.
You go hard, Tom.
Yeah.
A lot of people go hard. What happens is that stress starts to tighten up that psoas muscle.
Hip flexors, psoas, lower back. You got back problems all of a sudden. You have no idea why. Right. It's all tightness.
It's all tightness, man, because you're constantly charged and going hard.
Well, look, I mean, I think that emotions are energy in motion. And so let's just say that we share the same experiences, okay? And we're friends and we share the same experience. Oh, you're from London, I've been to London, my daughter lives in London, and we have, hey, you do this, I do that, you did that, you own this, I own that, So what we do is we actually look to see when we meet people if we're matching neurologically, if we're matching emotionally. So if we share the same experiences, we share the same emotions. And if we share the same emotions, we can relate to one another. So this is where it gets sticky. So then the moment you start saying, that person did that to you once. Yeah, that person, I had a similar experience. That person did that to me. Now we open the door like, I'm going to use you to reaffirm my attachment to that emotion. And let's just work it up so that you can suffer and I can suffer, and then we can have a conversation. And literally, we're sharing the same energy. And if we're sharing the same energy, we're sharing the same information. And we're bound by an invisible field of energy that keeps us connected.
Yes.
So then what does it take to break that energetic field? An energy that's greater than the energy that's holding it together. That's how you separate atoms that become a molecule. They're bound by an invisible field of energy that's keeping them connected. So you got to use a greater energy than the energy that's holding them together to separate them. Well, in order for you to change, then you can't have energy without awareness or consciousness. You got to go to a greater level of consciousness and change your energy. And nobody changes, Jay, until they change their energy. And when they change their energy, they change their life. So then you may say, well, this person, I use this person and I use my enemy to reaffirm my addiction to hatred. I use my coworker to reaffirm my addiction to judgment. I use my ex to reaffirm my addiction to resentment. That we have these different people in our lives that we need to remind us of who we think we are. The enemy dies and you find another one. You know, your coworker leaves and you start judging another one. It's not that. So then when there's no longer a vibrational match, when you start doing the work, there's no longer a vibrational match with you and your past, present reality, that person or that condition any longer. That person or condition is going to spiral away because you're no longer in need of that. So then our life begins to change when we change our energy and we begin to take our power back. That's essential for us to begin to create with. Now, some people can't handle that because they're not conscious that they're doing it. So they'll be working on their vision of the future, and yet they'll spend 2 hours lowering their energy back into victimization or suffering, and they want to know why their future isn't happening. Well, there's an unconscious program. Let's go after that. And once you start going after that, now all of a sudden your life starts to change again. So you can't say it doesn't work. On some level, we don't work. And if you're really invested in this, the question is, what is it about me? Where am I directing my attention or my energy? Who am I using to reaffirm some conditioning that I need to remember as my old self? So then when you stop reacting to the person, or the person's now complaining to you and you're not complaining back, it's going to be an uncomfortable moment because you're all of a sudden seeing a part of you used to be that you no longer are. And you have to be willing to not go there. And over time, that person will thank you and they'll say, I didn't even know that I was complaining that much. And by changing yourself, you help others. When things are bad, you feel bad. So there's dramatic contrast and polarity. And this is the realm of polarity, right? So how do you find the middle path? Well, the heart is the middle path. It's a union of polarity. It's a union of opposites. It's oneness. It's wholeness. And this is where we have to begin to create from. All of this down here is all humanity. This is all our animal nature. We get up in here, things change, right? You go from selfish to selfless. And something else happens. So it's really funny too, because when a lot of people come, they say, I don't know, I'm having difficulty opening my heart. I'm practicing, but I'm not feeling anything yet. And then it comes time to do our healings on other people. And the moment it was no longer about you, all of a sudden something happened. Well, of course, that's what the heart is about, right? So it comes in ways that we least expect at times. A habit is a redundant set of automatic, unconscious thoughts, behaviors, and emotions that's acquired through repetition. A habit is when you've done something so many times that the body now knows how to do it better than the mind. So now the person running through the same routine every single day is on autopilot, and their body's now dragging them into a predictable future based on what they did in the past, and they've lost their free will to a set of programs, right? So now you have the familiar past and you have the predictable future. Those are knowns. So the only place then, reasonably, where the unknown exists is the sweet spot of the generous present moment. That is when the body and mind are free from those conditions. So along with those emotions that influence the same thoughts, people start becoming more judgmental. They start becoming more impatient. They start becoming more entitled. They start getting more afraid, more anxious, more depressed. And now the body is literally being depleted of energy because it's believing that it's living in an emergency situation. And in emergency, you tap all of the body's resources for some threat, whether it's real or imagined. And so then when you're releasing all of these chemicals, we are literally drawing the body's life force and turning it into chemistry. And so for the short term, that's cool. But the arousal that's created from those stress hormones is a rush of energy. And so then people use the problems and the conditions in their life to reaffirm their conditioning or their addiction to that emotion. And in a sense, they become addicted to the life they don't even like. And this is why change is so hard. So then when a person makes up their mind to change and they say, okay, I'm not going to say I can't, I'm not going to judge another person, I'm not going to blame, I'm not going to complain, I'm not going to make excuses, I'm not going to be a victim, I'm not going to talk trash about anybody, I'm just going to stop. Well, that works out really well for the first couple hours. Then the body's saying you're out of schedule. You normally at 8 in the morning, you're getting traffic and you're angry. Then at 11 o'clock, you check your emails and you're really judgmental and frustrated. And the body's saying, oh, well, you've been doing this for the last 20 years. You're just going to stop today. So now the body, which has been conditioned emotionally to be the mind, wants to return back to its familiar territory, to the known. So the body starts influencing the mind. And it says, come on. This is a good time to judge. Come on, this is a good time to suffer. It's your ex's fault. It's the government's fault. It's it's the weather, or the news, whatever it is. And if we accept, believe, and surrender to that thought without analyzing it, it slips by and it begins to program the autonomic nervous system to make those pharmacy of chemicals. And so that's when the person makes the same choice, does the same thing, creates the same experience just for that familiar feeling. Okay, I'll complain just so I can feel suffering. Then they'd rather be unhappy than step in.
For a moment, do you know that every living soul gets exactly the same amount of time? Exactly the same amount of time. Figure it out. You get all there is. A hobo sleeping under a bridge or on a park bench that has no material possessions, none, does nothing of any constructive nature. That person gets exactly the same amount of time as the most productive industrialist in the world. We all get exactly the same amount of time. So it's what we do with the time that makes a difference. Now, I want you to think of the number of time management programs. Almost everyone under the sun has time management programs. In fact, I made one time, spent a lot of money on it. And then I found out it was a dumb waste of time and money. Do you know why? Time can't be managed. I was having breakfast with Earl Nightingale one morning. It was downtown Chicago, and I was going with him on a speaking engagement, and it was early in the morning. He said, "You want to meet for breakfast?" Whenever Earl Nightingale said, "You want to meet me?" I was there, and I always had some well-prepared questions. And I remember asking him, I said, "Earl, how did you learn how to master time management?" You know, we're having breakfast. I can still hear his fork hit the plate. He said, "What the hell are you talking about?" He said, "I've never mastered time management. Nobody masters time management." He said, "Time can't be managed." He said, "I merely manage activity." And he took a little card out of his pocket. And he said, "Every night before I go to bed, I write down 6 most important things I have to do tomorrow. These are goal-achieving activities. And when I wake up, that's what I start working on. And if I don't get them all done, I'll add them to tomorrow's list." You should have about 6. Now, if I have 3 that I didn't get done today, that doesn't mean I have 9 for tomorrow, like 6 plus these 3. Those 3 become part of the 6 you have to do the next day. When you wake up, you give all your conscious attention to do those things. See, you cannot manage time, but you can manage activity. You can manage your activities. Make certain that what you're doing really makes a difference. Make certain that you're spending your time on activities that are productive, that are taking you in the direction of your goal.
There's a process which has made more people rich than any other single process of goal achieving. And it's to take your major goal and structure it as a question. If your goal is to earn $100,000 a year, then you write, how can I earn $100,000 in the next 12 months? Now, that's an open-ended question, not how can I earn it at my job or doing a specific thing, just an open-ended question, how can I earn the amount of money? And then you discipline yourself to write 20 answers to the question. And the 20 answers are all the different things that you could think of to earn $100,000. Work longer, work harder, upgrade my skills, get a new job, take a part-time opportunity. Whatever it happens to be, write down everything you could think of, but force yourself to write at least 20 questions, or 20 answers to the question. The 20-question method, called mindstorming, forces you to dig deep, deep into your mind where you will find all your answers. And it may be call a person, or read a book. Let me give you an example. We had a young fellow, entrepreneur, he got 35 years old. He'd built a successful business. He'd worked about 10 years to do it. And he, for 2 years, wanted to sell his business so he could take a year off and travel, enjoy his money. And so for 2 years, he just sort of floundered around like a fish on the dock, wanting to sell his business. Nobody offered to buy it. He suggested it to people. People were not interested, and so on. And in this exercise that they put him through, his 20th answer, and often it's the 20th answer that is the breakthrough, was buy a book on how to sell your own business. And it just went off like a flashbulb in his mind. At the break, he got up. It was a downtown hotel. Got up, went down to the street to a major bookstore, went and found, he was amazed at the number of books that had been written on how to buy and sell a business. So he bought 2 or 3 books. 2 months later, he had restructured, packaged his business, sold it completely, satisfactorily, and took a year off. He said, but it was just a single idea. It was a breakthrough idea. But it was so simple. Just get a book on the subject. And you think, boy, that's pretty obvious, yes? But it's the most obvious answers that we overlook.
There is a reason many of the great women and men of the world, the great history makers, the great poets, the great philosophers, the great movement makers rose before the sun. There is a magic in the air at 5 a.m. And that's why the 5 a.m. Club is so transformational, because it's the time of greatest quietude. And I believe tranquility is the new luxury on our planet. It is a time of intimate creativity, because you've just been rested. Your brain is fresh. There's very recent cutting edge science coming out now. When you sleep, your brain actually has a mechanism to wash itself. When you wake up in the morning, your willpower is strongest. When you wake up in the morning, you've got a full well of mental focus. And we know that focus in our world is even more valuable than intelligence. And I could go on the benefits. I mean, you get up at 5 a.m., you've got the world to yourself. There's no crowds. You can think, you can plan, you can care for yourself in a world where so many people are so depleted. And so the 5 a.m. Club really is a game changer. And then it's not just get up at 5 a.m. and, scratch your stomach or stare up at the ceiling.
Or look at your phone.
Or look at, especially not, I believe you can play with your phone or change the world. You don't get to do both.
Yeah.
And so the 5 a.m. Club method is based on the 20-20-20 formula. I'm happy to get into it, but that is
tell us what it is.
That's the revolutionizer. And it started from my experience with working with many billionaires. I've coached many of the most successful financiers and titans of industry for over 2 decades. And one of the things I would run them through is the way you begin your day sets up the way you live your day. And so the 20-20-20 formula that the book is based upon is pretty simple. I go into great detail in the book, but essentially it's from 5 to 5:20. The first pocket is move. And I'm a fanatic about neuroscience. And why do you get up and move? Because you're going to release serotonin, which is going to make you feel better. You're going to release dopamine, which is the pleasure and inspirational neurotransmitter. You're going to release norepinephrine, which will boost your focus. You'll promote neurogenesis. Marie, you can actually grow new brain cells.
Oh,
You're going to increase your metabolic rate. So the way you feel when you first wake up is not the way you're going to feel at 5:20. Second pocket of the 20-20-20 formula, 20 minutes from 5:20 to 5:40. That's on reflection. So a lot of us are busy, but what's the point of being busy if you're doing the wrong things? The billionaires, the great creatives, the people of great impact, the people who live beautiful lives are very intentional. Mm-hmm. They're very deliberate. They're very conscious. So for 20 minutes, you write in a journal. You can visualize. You can pray. You can meditate. You can simply contemplate how you're going to live your day, what you want to stand for during the day, for example. And then the final pocket of the 20-20-20 formula is all about grow. And that's where you just read from a biography or a business book or a philosophy book or
watch a Marie TV.
Well, especially watch a Marie TV. That's, of course, that's the game changer, isn't it? And so that's 20 minutes of growing because I think we're most alive when we are growing.
Yes.
And I believe the leader who learns the most wins.
If I immediately when I wake up, I can't check my phone. In fact, I put it on airplane mode and I move it. I got that from Ariana Huffington, who's amazing. And she's like, is your phone still by your bed? She goes, airplane mode on the other side of the room, you know? So that, and then I just know so many people roll over and grab their phone. And to me, that's like Russian roulette. You put a bullet in the gun and you spin it. It's like,
what if the email says the deal didn't happen, numbers are down, life's not working out? Like, and immediately for me, it's like you open up and this little box is going to dictate the first couple hours or maybe the whole day by what you see. So I just won't look at my phone when I first wake up. But when I first open my eyes, this is all, and I like doing things quick for me because I want to get to the gym because it's the only time of day I'll go. If I try to wait till the afternoon, it doesn't work for me. So as soon as I wake up, I immediately try to think of something I'm grateful for, which everybody knows that and thinks about it. But I play this game with myself on how far I can lower the bar, meaning I tried to do a gratitude journal about 3 years ago. And after about 5 weeks, I ran out of stuff to say. I'm like, I already wrote my kids and this and life. Like, what did I put in here? Like, and then I was like, wow, 150,000 people die every single day. You can Google it, that's the number. It's like, some days I wake up and I'm just like, I'm here, awesome. And I feel that silly little thing like I'm here. Or I'll be like, oh my God, the sheets feel softer than they've ever felt. And I'll literally think to myself, these sheets are really good. Like, what, a third of the world sleeps on a dirt floor? And I have sheets and an amazing bed and look at the view I have. And that's enough, just because the way I look is I'm just tweaking my brain enough to be in a grateful place. It doesn't have to be this, for me, and you guys might have better practices. I'm not talking about a half-hour gratitude meditation. I just need one little thing, or I pick up a book. If I'm reading one of the books that you have on the shelf, I'll just pick 3 sentences and read something empowering, and I'll get that state of mind for my brain. And then I think about one win I had the day before. Because I know as entrepreneurs, as somebody searching for success, we never give ourselves credit. We never treat a friend the way we treat ourselves. It's like, I know I've had days I've gone till 10 o'clock at night and go, man, I got nothing done today. It was the biggest lie. Like, we beat ourselves up. We're like these racehorses. We wouldn't even treat a racehorse that we owned as bad as we treat ourselves, right? So I wake up and I'll do a quick little gratitude and they'll say, what was one win yesterday that I accomplished? And I'm like, wow, you did do that yesterday. And then I'll think of one win I want to do that day. Like, what, I'm gonna need 1 million things done today, but what's a must today that would be a great win? And then for me, then I immediately go downstairs in my house and I drink, I felt like I fed my mind, and then I want to feed my body. So for me, I've been doing the same drink forever. I do apple cider vinegar, lemon, MCT oil, a scoop of green powder, and mix that up, and I down that, and then I immediately got to go to the gym.
If you put your shoe on, your shoe is untied, that's a problem that you need to figure out, right? And so at some point, the first time, maybe that requires some effort, but once you tie your shoes 100 or 500 times, you can pretty much automate that solution and do it on autopilot. The same is true for pretty much every area of life, right? Like, if you come home from work and you're stressed and exhausted, that's a problem that you need to figure out. But there are a variety of solutions that could solve it. You could play video games for an hour, you could smoke a cigarette, you could go for a run for 20 minutes, you could meditate for 10 minutes. And any of those solutions, whatever one that you come into, your brain starts to fall into that. Like the mom who's going to McDonald's, where she's like, I have a problem, I need to feed my kids, it's 5:30, and McDonald's is now a solution. And you're like, hey, this was easy, I should just automate the solution as much as I can. And so the key is to try to find a solution that delivers the same outcome, that solves the same problem, but is also about as convenient as the previous one. Otherwise, it's really hard, because then you're trying to opt for a less convenient solution, and the brain doesn't want to do that. It wants to automate and conserve energy, not spend more energy.
That makes a ton of sense. You know, to your second solution, being able to sit with it, I think that's what is so critical. And you hear about this in books like The Obstacle is the Way and other books similar to that nature, where when you're able to face certain challenges consistently and sit with those challenges, like an ice bath or an extended water fast, in those experiences, they can be extrapolated out to all experiences.
Yes.
Right? So like, if I can go without food, which is one of the most primal messages my brain will tell my body, like, oh, I'm hungry, especially because it's around us 24/7.
Right.
And we're inundated with ads and smells and all these things. But if I can figure out a way to carve out a 4-day block of water only, that gives me strength going into all sorts of other things that are going to come up for me.
Intermittent fasting is funny that way. I've been doing it for 7 or 8 years now. And there are a lot of solutions that sound really easy at first, but then are actually hard to implement, you know? It's like, just do P90X or do Insanity and you'll get fit. And people are like, oh yeah, all right, I get really motivated. And then it's like they fall off course after like 2 weeks or whatever. intermittent fasting is like the opposite. It's hard for people to wrap their head around it at first. They're like, what do you mean I don't eat breakfast? It's like very difficult for them to get over that because we've been conditioned that way. But then it's actually really easy to do. Like you don't do anything. You just don't eat. You just go to work, like just get started. There's no action to take. So I don't know. I need like a phrase for things like that. But it is nice that what I've noticed is just small benefit that has nothing to do with fasting itself is that it does translate to other areas. You know, it's like, no, I don't need the meal. Like I was flying yesterday and it's like, well, I don't need to eat any of the crap food that's in the airport, you know? Like,
they only got shit peanuts.
It's
and
fine.
whatever.
It's going to be 6 hours. I'll be fine.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not a big deal.
You're not going to die.
Yeah. I remember thinking the same thing. I played baseball all the way through college and, you know, like many sports, we had this kind of like hell week in the beginning where, you know, training, conditioning, and everything before the season starts. And, I remember doing that in the morning. It started at like 6 a.m. and then, you know, we got done and I was in class at like, 9 or something. And we had a test and everybody was freaking out.
Many of us have issues with productivity. Maybe we are overly productive, but we're feeling burnt out all the time, or we're not productive at all because we don't know where to start. I found personally, being in business for myself for the last 20 years, that I have been a little overly productive. I almost did too much, and I was constantly multitasking and making things happen and just moving so fast that ultimately I really burnt out. And I started feeling brain fog. I was feeling disoriented. I couldn't focus. I was feeling like, even though I for so many years was priding myself on the fact that I could get so much done at one time, I actually don't think I was being nearly as productive as I could have been. So I hit a bottom recently with this productivity overload, and I realized that I had to change my patterns. I had to change my ways. I was then blessed. I said a prayer. I said, I need some help with my brain fog, and I need some help with my productivity issue. And I, that day, got an email from the Dr. Oz show asking me to come on and do a segment with this lovely author and Dr. Mike Dow. And me and Mike had been in touch for many years, just because he had been an author. We were published by the same publishers. And Mike had written a book about brain fog. So that day, I'm like, thank you, universe. You're giving me exactly what I need. I go on Dr. Oz with Mike, and I'm backstage with him, and I'm like, listen, I'm feeling so chaotic, and I'm multitasking so much, and I feel like I've got brain fog, and I'm forgetting things. And he looked at me and says, how much are you doing at one time? And I said, oh, Mike, I'm doing 1,000,000 things at once. I have 1,000 tabs up on my screen. And he's like, these are big brain no-nos. And they're also productivity no-nos, is what he said. Because he said that the more I try to do and the more I try to multitask, the less I'm actually getting done. So he gave me a tip that I want to share with you that has changed everything for me. And his suggestion was to just do 5 things a day. To make a list of the 5 most important things that I need to do that day and not do number 2 until I've completed number 1. And then once I complete number 1, move on to number 2, then on to number 3. And if I don't get through all 5 in one day, I'll just pick up the 5th the next day, or wherever I left off, I'll pick up the next day. And to really stick to that list and not move back and forth and not try to make 1,000,000 other things added on to that list, and just be really committed to that 5-task list. I did it. I started to just be very clear about the 5 things I was doing in a day. I told my team. I made a list in my base camp, which is where we keep all of our notes. And I made it really clear to myself, these are the only 5 things I'm doing throughout the day. As a result of making it super clear and conscious to myself that I was only going to do 5 things, I have been more productive. I have created more. I have been more intuitive. I have been more inspired, and I've been more creative.
I want to talk a little bit about goals on the line of how do you lose 37 pounds and write a book. I'm just going to kind of give you that as an example. For 24 years of my adult life, by choice, I weighed well over 200 pounds. I say by choice because, you see, I have never accidentally eaten anything. I mean, it's always been deliberate. And when I choose to eat too much today, I have chosen to weigh too much tomorrow. You can choose to set goals and realize your potential, or you can choose not to set them. Now, if you choose not to set them, you got to understand that the consequences are not going to be good down the road. For 24 years, I was going to lose that weight. As a matter of fact, in 24 years, I lost several thousand pounds of weight. How many of you already know exactly what I'm talking about? But it wasn't until I wrote it down, put a date on it, listed the obstacles I had to overcome, identified the people, the groups, the organizations I needed to work with, spelled out a plan of action, set that time limit in there, and identified all of the benefits to me. It was only when I did that that the goal became a reality and I lost the weight. For 10 or 15 years, I was going to write a book. You know anybody who's going to do just a whole lot of things, folks? I was going to write a book. But it wasn't until I got busy writing the book and writing the plans first before the book ever materialized. Now, if it sounds like I'm trying to sell you on having goals, how many of you are getting close already? How many of you are becoming convinced right quick like that you need to have those goals? There's no question about it. The immortal J.C. Penney many, many years ago said, give me a stock clerk with a goal, and I'll give you a man who will make history. But give me a man without a goal, and I'll give you a stock clerk. Now, the interesting thing is goals do not care who has them. Let me give you a classic example of the way they work. In 1950, a war-torn, devastated Japan, a nation which had lost an incredibly high percentage of its young men. Their cities were in ruins, they had been bombed out, but in 1950, they got together, they meaning industry and government got together and set a goal. The goal was we're going to be the #1 nation in the world during the 1950s in the production of textiles. In 1959, ladies and gentlemen, they accomplished that objective. In 1960, they set another goal. We're going to be the #1 nation in the world in the production of steel. Now, when you understand there's no iron ore in Japan of any significance, there's no coal of any significance there, we're going to be the #1 nation in the world in the production of steel, it seemed like an absurd goal, and yet they reached their objectives. They had taken all of the steps. In 1970, the Japanese set another goal. They said during the 70s, we'll be the #1 nation in the world in the production of automobiles. They missed it, folks. 1 year. It took them until 1980. In 1980, they set another goal. And this time their goal was, we're going to be the #1 nation in the world in the production of computers and electronics. Yes, indeed, ladies and gentlemen, you absolutely must have those goals. You got to write them down. You got to put a date on it. You got to identify those obstacles. You've got to identify the people, the groups you need to work with. You got to find out what it is you need to know. You got to develop a plan of action, and you got to write it down, what's in it for me. Now that's a formula that I have just given you, pure and simple.
So when I wake up in the morning, the first thing I do is I do a gratitude exercise where I ask myself, usually in bed, what am I most grateful for today? And usually, I'm grateful for my health. I'm grateful for my wife. I'm grateful for my children. I'm grateful to be alive. I'm grateful, for my family. I'm grateful to have experiences. And
do you do that eyes closed?
Yeah. I do that eyes closed, and while I think about that, I feel it. And so the feeling starts every day with a great feeling. So I start every day with a great feeling.
Do you visualize some things, like your children, or do you talk to yourself? How do you do that?
Yeah, I have an internal dialogue. I see images of the things that I'm thinking about, and that just takes me 2 minutes, just 2 minutes when I wake up. And then I go to exercise to take care of my body.
How long?
Usually 1 hour to 1 hour and 15 minutes every day. And so I do a variety of different things. I hike, I bike, I work on aerobics, I work on strength, I work with weights. I do whatever it is, I just do it to give my body the physical exercise. Then as soon as I finish my exercise in my gym.
1 hour and half?
An hour and 15 minutes at the most. Okay. So then in my gym, I have 2 things. I have a vision board, which is my dream board for my physique.
You are known for that.
Yes. So I have my vision board for my physique and my body and my health. But then I also have in my gym something called an achieved board.
Okay,
so after I achieved some of the things that I achieved.
Past and future.
No, achieved in the past.
Yes, so past, you have the past and the future. Vision board and achieved board.
So I have in my gym, in my home gym, I have like a place where I sit, and before I start my meditation, I look at my vision board from the past.
Okay.
So I get connected to the different things that I've been able to achieve, and I remember every day when I set my mind and my focus to achieving goals, I can achieve all of my goals. But what I also do is I reinforce. Most people focus on what's not working. This isn't going well. This didn't work. I want to remind myself every day of look how many things I was able to accomplish by being clear, by being passionate, by using these rituals. So before I go into my meditation, which is with my eyes closed, I look at my achieved board. I get emotionally associated with it to remind myself that when I set my mind to achieve something, I can do it. And then I look across, because I have a mirror in the gym, and I look across and I say, I love you just the way you are. And I said, I accept you just the way you are, with all of your skills and passion and faults and insecurities and doubts and fears. I accept you just the way you are.
Wow,
and I smile, and then I close my eyes, and I do about a 15-minute meditation.
Wow.
And in my meditation, sometimes I have no thoughts, where I'm just one with the universe and everything.
Centered.
Other times, I'll just follow my thoughts, and I'll just pay attention, be mindful of where are they going this morning? Where are they going today? So I'll follow my thoughts, and I'll just follow them. Other times, I'll follow a thought and say, release that one. And follow another thought and say, release that one. So I'm teaching my brain that I'm in control of my brain.
What I've said before is that regularity is critical, going to bed at the same time and waking up at the same time. And certainly using alarms can help you do that. And I use the word plural there, alarms. What I mean is not to have multiple awakenings in the morning. I mean, we should all set a to-bed alarm. You know, think about the time that you need to go to bed to get that 8-hour sleep opportunity, and then set the alarm maybe sort of 15 minutes before, and that's just the call. It's sort of like last orders at a bar. Now is the time to sort of start preparing to get ready for this sleep event. You can also, by the way, just sort of before sleep in the last hour, you can sort of get into your pajamas, your sleeping clothes, brush your teeth, floss your teeth, do all of those things that end up taking away a sort of an additional 15 minutes or 20 minutes. Get those in ahead of time. But what about the snooze button though? Unfortunately, it's probably not a good idea, because there is some data that I discuss in the book where if you look at the cardiovascular response to an alarm, it's actually quite a stressful event for your cardiovascular system. We see a spike in heart rate, stress chemicals increase. Now, it's fine to use an alarm just that one time in the morning to wake you up, but you shouldn't really be hitting the snooze button, because then you are repeatedly assaulting your cardiovascular system. And you may think, well, you know, I only hit it maybe sort of 3 or 4 times, you know, how bad is that? Well, maybe for that one day it's not bad, but if you're doing that every single day, every week, every month, every year, every decade, across a lifetime, you can imagine the type of additional cardiovascular strain that that places on people. So use the alarm, that's fine, but try to use it once and then get up.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video, because you are awesome. If you want the 7 powerful morning routines to destroy your laziness, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
You've got to remember, your brain needs a certain amount of sleep, and if you don't get that amount of sleep, you can actually test the cognitive decline. So step number 1 is really treating sleep